Can I eat chips or no?
I wouldn't now.
Shut your video off, John.
Shoot.
Whatever you want.
My salsa, homemade.
I do want to say that those are the best chips.
I agree.
John knows his chips. Everything
smell
else.
those chips.
Yeah,
I smell
What are
those
they?
chips.
that's right.
What
They're from-
kind?
They're milagro.
Yeah, they're delicious.
All right. All right, everybody, our attendees are in, so I'm going to begin the board meeting. So good evening and welcome to the proceedings of the Grand Rapids Public Schools Board of Education. This evening is Monday, February 15. Secretary Lewis, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Grant?
Here.
Ms. Lewis is here. Reverend Matthias?
I am here.
You are, yes. Mr. Ross?
Present.
Mrs. Williams is excused. Dr. Baker?
Here.
Ms. Davis?
Here.
Dr. Flores?
Present.
President Chutke?
I am here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. May I please have a motion for approval of tonight's agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Support.
Thank you, Dr. Baker and Mr. Ross. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, our first item on this evening's agenda is our celebration. And so I will invite Mr. Helmholt to join us for our celebration of our very own Dr. Ledrian Roby and her recognition as the Education Newsmaker of the Year with the Grand Rapids Business Journal. So Mr. Helmholt, welcome.
All right, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Roby, it's my pleasure to celebrate GRPS's own Newsmaker of the Year. The Grand Rapids Business Journal every year does their Newsmakers of the Year. They honor 16 industry categories. This year's theme was really focused on those leaders that excelled in the face of this global pandemic. Terms like pivot and adapt, being flexible, were part of what they used to determine who they'd select for their Newsmaker of the Year. And for the Education Newsmaker of the Year, it's none other than our fearless leader, Dr. Ledrian Roby. They cite multiple things here about when she was first selected by the board to be superintendent. And then just a few short weeks later, our governor shut down the state as a result of COVID. Talked a lot about parent engagement, working with interim superintendent, Dr. Ryan Gorman, on a weekly, almost daily basis from that first point all the way through July 1, when she officially became superintendent, to where we are today. So just hats off, congratulations, Dr. Roby, on this Newsmaker of the Year award.
Congratulations. Yes.
Here.
Thank you very
All
much.
right. Thank you, Mr. Helmholt. And thank you, Dr. Roby. Yes, what has been required of you as a district leader in the last year is nothing short of remarkable. So we are so honored to have you in our leadership and to celebrate you this evening.
If you can only go back a year and decide whether or not.
You know, and actually we're at a year to the day, I think. When I interviewed with you all for my second interview, it was President's Day. It's not the exact date, but it was that Monday. So you've known me a year.
A year. A very good year. A very good year.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you again, Mr. Helmholt. All right. Next is our secretary's report. Ms. Lewis.
Notice of regular and special meetings always appear on the website with information on how to become involved in the virtual meeting on Zoom. And these meetings are also noticed and posted outside the district office following the Open Meetings Act. The Finance Committee will be meeting on on Monday, February 22nd at 5:30, and the Policy Committee will be meeting this Wednesday at 5 p.m. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Next, we have our committee chair updates. First is academic achievement, and that is you, Ms. Davis. Yes? Welcome.
It is.
Great.
Yes, so we met on February 3rd. And the first thing that we did, since it's a new group, we had an overview of the instructional council and what they do presented. We do hear from the instructional council every month during our academic achievement meeting. So just some basics about them. They initiate policy changes that affect instruction, and they approve new courses or updates to courses that are presented. They're made up of 7 employees that are appointed by administrators and 7 administrators that are appointed by the superintendent. Then we had just their monthly update. They meet the 3rd Wednesday of every month. They didn't have a whole lot for the month of January at their meeting, but they are working on a new communication for submitting course proposals because of time changes and just to bring some clarity to the process and access to the process. So they're forming a subcommittee for that. And they are looking ahead at equity in curriculum as a future topic. And they will have Rodney Lewis presenting new academy proposals at their next meeting. We then moved into a hybrid and virtual update, highlighting that the kids are now back in person for the hybrid model. And we specifically heard about how electives are going. So at the elementary level, those kiddos are getting synchronous learning once a week from their elective teachers. And that's new since the hybrid model started. It was asynchronous prior to that. At the secondary level, it's face-to-face for the kiddos that are there on the AB schedule. And then the virtual kids are joining online with the new cameras that we were shown at our work session. And so far there's been positive feedback about the cameras and that model in general. And then a couple questions that they answered. Band has not been playing their instruments, but they did just order some PPE that includes some masks that have a slit for mouthpieces. So the district has really been doing their research on what is healthiest for our kids, and we're making sure that we transition as much as possible. Choir is singing with masks on 6 to 12 feet apart. So just some updates as far as that goes. We also had a couple updates with transportation. A Z Pass is being used that the kids scan when they get on or off the bus. And there is a new app that's coming called Here Comes the Bus, where parents will be able to see where their kid is or where the bus is en route. And next steps. We also did talk about evaluation update. So far, we were told that there hasn't been a change at the legislative level, even with the pandemic. So it'll still be based on a 40% student growth. And with the components for evaluations, they're looking at 7 of the 16 components that make sense for virtual evaluation. So they have looked at which of those 16 components actually make sense to evaluate a teacher on given virtual teaching. So I think that's about it for now.
Ms. Davis, are these new bus passes the ones that are taking the place of some paper thing that they used to have? Because there's a lot of fussing about it at museum school that they weren't able to.
I'm not sure, Kathy. From what I was told, these, I believe they scan them when they get on and off the bus so that their parents can tell where they are.
Is this something new?
Right.
Yeah.
This is, there's 2 different bus systems, there's the high school students that are using the city bus, and that is a new wave card, correct? But are you referring, Kim, to the Dean Transportation buses?
This
Okay.
is not for the city buses.
Okay. So the
right,
Dean
thank you.
Transportation has the zip card and the Here Comes the Bus.
Correct.
Okay, that sounds that sounds like a fantastic invention. So
And both of those are nationally used. So they're not new, but they're new for us. So that'll be wonderful. Yes.
yeah, fantastic.
All right, thank you, Ms. Davis. Any other questions? Okay, let's move on to the Legislative Committee update. Dr. Baker.
Okay, there's a lot here, and Mr. Helmholtz was kind enough to put together a list. I'll try to go through it. This is in our packet for any details, and I may need to ask either my committee members to help out or get John to help. But I'll go through this somewhat quickly, but pause it a couple times. First of all, the Legislative Committee is now meeting on the second Fridays at 3 o'clock. If anybody wants to join us in the future. Rusty Merchant joined John to give us the updates, and most of the updates were related to Governor Whitmer's budget. And just these are the reflections that they shared with us. Overall, a pretty good budget for us. It's more equitable in that there are funding formulas and weighted in ways that are beneficial to the kinds of district that we are. We would have a 1.9% increase in funding, which would be $164 increase for Grand Rapids Public Schools, and that's using the 2X formula. Also, a 2% increase in special ed, 2% increase for at-risk students, and 2% increase for English language learners. So all of those are helpful for the district. Governor Whitmer is proposing a $38.9 million funding for emergency education relief fund that would go for things that are important for physical, emotional, mental health programs, before and after school, childcare, et cetera. A big change is the Great Start Readiness Program, which has not had a funding increase for per pupil students in that since 2014. So it's been 7 years. And that funding increase would go to $72.50 up to $82.75. She's bringing back a declining enrollment categorical, which used to be more common but hasn't been used for a while. So she's proposing a $200 million budget for districts experiencing declining enrollment. That would be beneficial to the district, except that amount could go down because so many districts may need this funding. And so if that happens, there would be a proration of that. Governor's budget also maintains funding for early literacy coaches and just early literacy grants and mental health supports. The important thing about this budget is that this is not what we will get. This is the governor's starting place. So it will go through other discussions with the state legislature and also take into account other data that's happening. So we had a long discussion about the particular possibilities that could happen, but just to let you know where the governor is starting out at. There is, as we have heard before, there are federal funds that are available to districts, and this district, GRPS, is advocating for a supplemental budget bill, so that way we can get these federal funding more quickly. We are advocating for that the school aid budget would be, as usual, we always advocate for this to be determined by June 1, so that way we can plan appropriately. The next two items are, we spent some time talking about, and I think is really important. This dovetails with what Ms. Davis was talking about for the Academic Achievement Committee. We are advocating the GRPS is advocating to temporarily suspend the growth requirement. And as was stated, this was discussed in a previous meeting, and there were some concerns that we were not holding teachers accountable. That is not true. We are just asking that this growth requirement, which is set assuming that things are done through usual testing protocols, not be the method that we use to evaluate educators. Educators would still be evaluated and accountability would still take place. It would just not include these automatic numbers. Similar to that, we're advocating for a suspension of the automatic retention of third grade reading law, again, which is based on this on these testing data. On those two items, I want to make sure, does it accurately reflect our position? Other committee members or Mr. Helmold, if you're wanting to, I just want to make sure I'm accurate on those two things.
That was what I heard, yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Just thanks. I wanted to, because especially with the evaluation, I want to make sure we're not giving out false information. The only thing else is next Monday, the 22nd, there's a legislative luncheon, virtual legislative luncheon for those that participate from the board. We will get it will be a luncheon that will be provided by, is it DoorDash? Anybody remember?
I think it was.
Yeah, it's DoorDash. We will get an opportunity to order food from DoorDash and have it delivered to your home or wherever you're located by 11:30 next Monday. And you can join a lunch discussion with our local legislators. So if you are interested, please make sure that Julie Anderson knows. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. Any questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Helmholt, for popping in there too and confirming our thinking.
Okay.
All right.
I'm assuming I didn't miss anything. So.
You covered it.
Okay, thanks, John. I just needed to hear it. So.
Great, thank you, Dr. Baker. Let's move on to the superintendent's report for this evening. Dr. Roby.
Good evening. Mr. Garib, if you can bring in Executive Director Kurt Johnson. As you all know, Kurt Johnson is our Executive Director of Athletic Programs, and there have been lots of changes and ups and downs with athletics, and we wanted to make sure that the board had some the current information, and so I'll have him come forward, and then I'll do a quick Promise Zone update. Mr. Johnson, I see you on camera. You're just muted and.
Can you see me now? I can't see myself.
We can hear you, but we cannot see you.
You cannot see me. Mr. Garib, there. Let's see if we can fix this real quick here. Oh, wow. I'm not understanding.
Well, we can hear you. So if we're not able to see you, we can listen. So.
Okay, I wore a tie, especially.
Appreciate that.
Well, good evening, Madam President Shockey and Dr. Roby, and congratulations again, and distinguished board members. It gives me great pleasure to be with you this evening and just to share a few updates in athletics. First, let me say thank you for keeping your seatbelt on during this wild roller coaster ride that we've been on for the last year. Some things have settled a little bit, and then some things have not still settled. So keeping the health and safety of everyone involved during the pandemic in mind, we have not been able to operate our sports as we normally would this year, as you know. Unfortunately, we had to cancel and postpone our sports programs for our elementary, fall and winter seasons, as well as middle schools due to the pandemic and due to the restrictions and the multiple extensions of those restrictions that had an impact on our ability to plan appropriately, because we wanted to create environments that were that we would be comfortable with and that would be COVID compliant to operate those sports programs. Excuse me. Many school districts in our neighboring communities might have a few elementary buildings and a few middle schools, 1 or 2. Very few have 3 or more. We have approximately 25 25 school buildings with elementary grades in them and 14 buildings that have middle school grades in them. So time to plan becomes really crucial. We're looking forward to both elementary and middle school sports resuming their programs in the spring. The high school sports experienced a lot of stop and starts as well over the past year. Until last Monday, winter contact sports, basketball and wrestling for us, were on hold and not to resume until February 21st. And only our non-contact sports were in session, and that would be swimming and diving and bowling for us. However, the orders and restrictions were relaxed, and we have returned to some a semblance of normalcy in terms of the revised winter schedule. It's been a Michigan High School Athletic Association revised schedule because normally winter sports get started right around end of Thanksgiving, end of November after Thanksgiving, and then they end around the end of February. So this revised schedule will take us to the middle of March, which after that, then the tournaments will begin. So also, unfortunately, and temporarily at this time, we're only allowing 2 guests per athlete or spectators. We love having you all attend the events, but again, in the interest of health and safety for everyone involved, we want to proceed with caution as more restrictions are relaxed. And we do expect at some point in the future that we will be able to accommodate the general public once again. We have posted COVID safety information all around our indoor athletic facilities. And last week, we had athletic events at both high schools, Ottawa Hills and Union High School. And they went great along with a weekend basketball tournament. We will continue to seek live streaming options. And when they're available, we will work with John Helmholtz to publish and distribute those links. If for some special reason, any of you would like to attend a specific event, those arrangements can be made for you. Just let Dr. Roby know. So once again, we want to thank you and thank everyone once again for their continued support as we kind of journey back to normal. So just bear with us, and we plan on getting everyone back in the stands at some point in the near future. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
will spring sports start after spring break, or don't we know when they will be starting?
So right now, there will be the practices will normally begin at the end of March, but those will not take place until after spring break.
After spring break.
Other questions for Mr. Johnson? All right, then I'll just move right into the Promise Zone update. Last week, Dr. Quinn and Dr. Clyde, both from Public Policy Associates Incorporated, worked with board members from the Grand Rapids Promise Zone Authority to identify the student supports frameworks. We talked about the strengths as we move forward, and there were core questions that we were asked, specifically, what would we like the lasting legacy to be and the core strengths. We talked about community assets that have been identified that we currently work with, and then how to continue to expand what academic and peer supports are needed. They will be reaching out again to various stakeholders to gather data and feedback in April and then June of this year. Also, February, as you know, is College Financial Aid Awareness Month, and our own counseling coordinator, Mr. Emmanuel Armstrong, will be working with me tomorrow during our taping of the Weekly Wednesday to give parents information about their FAFSA. And of course, even though it's Financial Aid Awareness Month, you can certainly apply after February, but we want to make sure that families are aware that typically this is the time that folks are applying for financial aid and getting additional information. And so that will air on our Weekly Wednesday coming up later this week. And that concludes my announcements and report. Any questions that I can answer?
Yeah, Dr. Roby, just, I'm not sure if this is a question, but just, I know that the Promise Zone includes all students from all high schools in the city. But I also wanted to, the two things you just reflected on financial aid, paying for school, and also community supports. I just wanted to make sure, I don't know if there's been outreach to College Through College or the T2C Studio, which is a very strong advocate for Grand Rapids Public School students, and I think a great model for community supports. Just wanted to kind of give a shout out to College Through College for their work, specifically more for Grand Rapids Public School students.
Yes, I didn't say that, but you're correct. And we will make sure that we do continue to highlight them, because you're right, that is important information that we want our families and our students to be aware of different programs that are available right here in our community.
Yeah, thanks.
Other questions that I can answer? All right, well, that concludes my report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roby. We have 2 action items this evening. The first is bylaw 1017, which is our new equity policy. And so this evening we will vote to approve the first reading. As a reminder, this is the work that we finalized at last week's board work session. And with every policy, there is always opportunity for amendment and adjustments as time goes on and we begin to understand how a policy impacts work. And this is so much of the work of the policy committee as well. It gets to review on a multi-year basis the policies we have to ensure that we are adhering to them and that they are the intent that we have for the district. So with that, I will ask for any questions or discussions about policy 1017, our equity policy. Okay,
Not really
hearing
a-
none.
well, not
Go ahead.
really-
Yeah, Mr.
not
Ross,
really
please.
a question or anything, but maybe a small grammatical thing. Second sentence, opening paragraph, the Board of Education, should Board of Education, proper noun, capitalized?
Ms. Lewis, this is my question for the English teacher. Should it be capitalized? Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you, Mr. Ross and Ms. Lewis. We will make that edit. So if that's the only comment, then I will entertain a motion for approval of bylaw 1017, the equity policy, as amended.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Flores and Dr. Baker. Ms. Lewis, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Grant?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. Reverend Matthias?
Yes.
Mr. Ross? Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams is excused. Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Dr. Flores?
Yes.
President Chotke?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. And our final action item is the contract ratification for GRPS. Any discussion or question? May I have a motion for approval, please?
Move. Support.
Thank you. Ms. Lewis, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Grant?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. Reverend Matthias?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams is excused. Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Dr. Flores?
Yes.
President Chotke?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. We will move into our consent agenda grouping. Any discussion or questions? May I please have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
All right, thank you, Ms. Davis and Mr. Ross. Ms. Lewis, please call the roll.
Dr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Grant?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, yes. Reverend Matthias?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams is excused. Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
President Chotke?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. We do not have any public comment this evening, so we will move into superintendent comments. Dr. Roby.
I actually don't have any comments this evening, so just thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roby. We'll move into board member comments. Mr. Ross, may I go to you first?
No comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Grant,
No comment.
Dr. Flores,
Just a hearty congratulations to you, Dr. Roby. You certainly are deserving.
thank you. Ms. Davis,
No comment tonight.
Reverend Matthias,
Just want to congratulate our superintendent, certainly already making waves here in Grand Rapids. I'm sure Minnesota's missing you, but you know, and just again, really want to thank all of our board members, just the individual hard work that all are doing in our community, and certainly funding a lot of the questions that our constituents have of the complex issues that we're facing. But appreciate the hard work.
all right, thank you, Reverend Matthias. Ms. Lewis,
Yes, I just want to echo everyone's congratulations to Dr. Roby. We are very happy to have you here.
thank you, Ms. Lewis, and Dr. Baker.
I will agree strongly with Ms. Lewis and others who talk about how thankful they are that Dr. Roby, well, congratulating Dr. Roby, but it has been an incredible year. I know that was, it sounds like just a great accolade, but I know that that you were had a lot of pressure on you this year to make families and teachers and children and the business community and others content. And it's been a tough year, and thank you for being part of it and doing it so well.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. I'd like to thank our building leaders and our executive directors who led our listening sessions over the last week or so.